welcome. In this video, we're going to talk about solving two-step equations. So we've talked about expressions, we've talked about what if we're just adding something to the variable, what if we're just multiplying or dividing something with a variable. In this video, we're going to talk about what if there's both. So our I can statement is I can solve a two-step equation / inequality, and yeah, that'll be it. Okay. So we're talking about solving equations or inequalities. The process is pretty much the same. That have both a constant and a coefficient. And so basically the two steps that we have are undo the constant, undo the coefficient. You don't have to write this part. Okay. So our goal is always to find a positive one of the variable. And so I need to get rid of things starting from kind of like the outside in. So I start with whatever is the least attached, and I go to what is the most attached. So we're going to start by undoing the constant. And I always suggest to students that you should circle the constant every time, and then we undo the coefficient. And we're going to put a box around that. So here, this +4, my constant, right, it is not as stuck to the x as this 2 is. So we can undo that first. And then this 2, my coefficient, that is the most stuck to the variable, so I'm going to get rid of that one last. Okay, and we undo operations by doing their inverse or their opposite. So if you need to put that means opposite, you go right ahead. So inverse operations are adding and subtracting our inverses with each other. Multiplying and then multiplying and dividing our inverses with each other. If you want to put plus minus times divide. All right, so then there's a couple extra special rules. So what if I have a coefficient that is a fraction, so like 3/4 x? Okay. We undo fractional coefficients by multiplying by what is called the reciprocal. So if my coefficient was -3/4, I would multiply by -4/3. So all you're doing is you're flipping the fraction, and you're going to keep the sign the same. And that works because -3 times -4 is +12, and then 4 times 3 is +12, and 12 over 12 is just 1. So that's how we can get rid of that coefficient, or make that coefficient 1, by multiplying by the reciprocal. And so today we're just going to focus on equations. We will come back to inequalities. So we will come back to that special rule. But then the last thing we need to fill in is that our goal, so put a box around this, highlight it, put a star. Okay, our goal is always to make the constant 0 and the coefficient a +1. So starting with this one, 102 equals 5w plus 7. Our goal is to get a +1w, get the variable on the side by itself, and make it a +1. I put a line through my equal sign to keep it organized. I'm going to circle my constant, which is +7, right? That's the number on the side of the variable that's by itself, doesn't have a variable, okay? To undo the constant, I do the opposite of plus 7, which is minus 7. When I do something on the side of the variable, I need to do something on the other side as well. Then we draw a line underneath it to keep it organized. So plus 7 and minus 7 are opposites. Those cancel each other out. And I still have a 5w on the right. Then 102 minus 7 is 95. So we undid our constant. Now we're going to undo the coefficient. The coefficient is the number that's multiplying the variable. So 5w, the coefficient is 5. This means 5 times w. The opposite of times w is dividing by 5. What I do on the side of the variable, I have to do on the other side. So 5w divided by 5 is 1w. So look, that has achieved our goal of getting w, a positive 1w by itself on one side. And then 95 divided by 5 is 19. So once I have achieved my goal of getting the variable by itself, I'm good to go and I'm going to be done. Okay, so this one, negative 5 plus n over 6 equals negative 4. Our goal, maybe, there it goes, is to get a positive 1n. We always want a positive 1 of our variable. I draw a line through my equal sign to keep the two sides organized. Then starting from the side of my variable, I'm going to undo the constant. So I'm going to circle the constant. That's the number by itself without the variable. And we undo negative 5 by adding 5. The goal is to make the constant 0. Negative 5 plus 5 is 0. Then I'm going to draw a line underneath. What I do on the side of the variable, I have to do on the other side as well. Okay? So then we combine what we can. So I can do negative 5 plus 5 because those are like terms. That is 0, so those two cancel each other out. And we still have an n divided by 6. On this side, negative 4 plus 5 is positive 1. So we undid the constant. Now we're going to box and undo the coefficient. Okay. The coefficient is going to be the one that is most stuck to the variable. So in this case, we're dividing by 6. The opposite of dividing by 6 is multiplying by 6. Okay. So multiplying by 6 and dividing by 6 are opposites. Those two cancel each other out, and I still have a 1n. And 1 times 6 is 6. I have achieved my goal of getting a positive 1n on one side and all of the other numbers on the other side, so I'm going to be done. All right, so last one. 18 equals negative 12 minus 2/3 k. Put a line down our equal sign just to keep it organized. Our goal is to get a positive 1k. Working on the side with my variable, I'm first going to undo the constant. And I'm going to circle that. The constant is this 12. My goal is to turn the constant into 0. Then we're going to undo the coefficient. And our goal is to make the coefficient into a positive 1. So to turn 12 into 0, I can subtract 12. What I do on the side of the variable, I must do on the other side as well. Okay. Then we combine what we can. I don't have anything to combine with this negative 2/3 k. So I'm just going to leave that alone. It doesn't have any like terms. 12 minus 12, I can combine those. Their like terms is 0. They cancel each other out. And then 18 minus 12 is 6. So we undid the constant, or we can cross it off. Then I need to box and undo the coefficient. The coefficient is negative 2/3. And this is that fancy one we talked about. So you can either divide by negative 2/3, or what ends up happening when you do that is you end up multiplying by the reciprocal. So times negative 3/2. What I do on the side of the variable, I have to do on the other side. And then just real quick to explain why that works, you don't have to write this bit down. Okay. So you can just watch this part, you don't need to write it down. Okay. So negative 3 times negative 2, that is a positive 6, over 2 times 3 is a positive 6. So 6 over 6k. Well, 6 divided by 6 is 1, so this reduces to 1k. That's why multiplying by the reciprocal cancels out the coefficient to make it 1. And that's what we want. We want our coefficient to be 1. Positive 1 specifically. I'm trying to zoom back out. There it goes. Oops. So these two guys are going to cancel each other out, and we still have a positive 1k. Then you can use a calculator, but I'm just going to show you by hand. I put 6 over 1 to make it a fraction. Negative 3 times 6 is negative 18. 2 times 1 is 2. Fraction bars are division. Negative 18 divided by 2 is negative 9. So just going to rewrite that over here. So our positive 1k is equal to negative 9. So we found out that 12 minus 2/3 times negative 9 is 18. Okay, so I'm going to pause there. The next page you have, you're just going to do problems 1 through 4 for today. And then we will come back to this page and back to the inequalities next class.